Welcome back to the Sports Booth YouTube channel. Today we are talking about dark horses of the Rugby World Cup. Now, a dark horse is someone you kind of don't expect to win / make an unexpected run and end up winning some games, going further in the tournament than expected, or not really on everyone's radar to do as well as they do. So today we're going to be discussing 3 teams I think are the dark horses for the 2023 Rugby World Cup. We're going to start on the first team who I think, I don't want to say are the most likely, but I think are considered the best. I don't even want to say the best. My biggest dark horses, I guess, to make it further in the competition. And what we're going to do then is explain why we think they're A, start off as dark horses, and B, why we think they can go as far as they can in the tournament. So, the team I think that is the biggest dark horse in this year's Rugby World Cup is Georgia. Now I'm going to tell you why. Georgia, I think, ranked 11th in the world currently, are out of a lot of people's kind of visions and radar, not in the Six Nations, not considered one of those big rugby unions. Even discussions around this new World League coming out, they don't fall in that. So they're very much, I want to say, below the radar, under everyone's radar, and therefore could really surprise some people going into this World Cup. Now, it is really hard for me to select Georgia because they're in the pool with Fiji, who I think are very similar and could do a similar thing to Georgia. I just think people would be less surprised to see what Fiji will do, but I actually think Georgia have a better chance of doing this. So let's start with why, I guess, Georgia are dark horses. In their pool, they have Australia, Wales, Fiji, and Portugal. Now, it's funny because this is very similar to a pool 4 years ago where it was Australia, Wales, Fiji, and Uruguay that joined Georgia in the 2019 World Cup in Japan. I think Georgia have come a long way from that World Cup. In 2019, they will be bitterly disappointed, I think, with their campaign. Started off with a loss to Wales, which we now know that they can beat, as they have done. They then beat Uruguay, who had the famous victory in that World Cup over Fiji. And then probably their most disappointing performance was the loss to Fiji, their biggest defeat of that World Cup campaign, 45-10. So, Georgia, and then finally lost to Australia in their last game, only by 19, so we're competitive. So I think they probably came out of that 2019 World Cup going, look, we're definitely stronger than we have been, and where we are looking to go, we've made improvements, but I don't think they'll be satisfied with finishing 4th in their pool and only winning 1 game. So now we fast forward to this World Cup. They're in a pool with Australia, who have just, this year changed coaches. Now, I'm not saying that they've taken a step back. Obviously, Eddie Jones coming in are definitely the favourites going into that pool. They have Wales, who are all over the place at the moment as a team. Obviously, a very good head coach in Warren Gatland. Still some very strong players. You can't count them out. But their union and everything to do with Wales at the moment is in a bit of a mess. And that includes players dropping out, their captain just getting injured. There's just a lot going on with the Welsh Rugby Union, which is a good time for these other teams, Fiji, Georgia, to pounce. Fiji, in the same kind of breath of Georgia, you could just about take both teams and say that, either of them. I just think a lot of people are expecting Fiji to do really well in this pool, where I actually think Georgia are the team that is going to surprise the people in this pool. And then they finish off with a wild card in Portugal, which as we saw at the last World Cup with Fiji and Uruguay, you can't, take those teams in those wild card games lightly. So that's, I guess, why they are under the radar. The 2019 World Cup, again, like I've said, not in the Six Nations, not really considered for the World League. A team that sits under the radar. But now let's get on to why I think they can succeed and go far in this World Cup. I want to look really at their 2021 results and 2022 results and kind of show you the pattern of improvement. In 2021, they lost to France and South Africa in games and drew with Fiji. So 2 years later, a big result against Fiji, even if it was a draw. In 2 competitive games, they were beaten well by those South Africans and the French, but not by 80 points. It was 40-15, I think, was one of the scores around those margins. We then jump into 2022, where they beat Italy, beat Portugal, who are in their pool, beat Uruguay, who have beaten Fiji. They lost to Samoa by 1 point, who actually, beat Fiji in the Pacific Nations Cup. And then big one, beat Wales. So really have turned the last 2 years into a dominant performances, and especially looking at 2022, being one of the best teams in the world, in my opinion. Another thing, and when we look into the squad, a lot of talented players in the Georgia team. 18 of their 39 World Cup training squad are from the Black Lions, which is the professional team, best professional team in Georgia. 18 gives them a really good base of, continuity, and it's very similar to what I always make the argument about with the Fiji and Dura. If you've got a base of players there, it really does help that these players know how they play, they come together. It's very easy to merge that team there. The rest of the teams in the top leagues around Europe, most in France, and again, it's showing that, you've got your base of players who are really good for your professional team in Georgia, and then all of these other players in France and a couple in England, even one in the URC, I think, with Leinster. So look, a whole lot of good players surrounding that base and core of that 18. There is no doubt in my mind that Georgia can beat Wales. Obviously, we've seen it happen now. They can also beat Fiji. I think, again, this last World Cup being in Japan, now this one being in France, where a lot of their players have had experience, will be very beneficial for this team. So I think a lot of people are counting Georgia out, and I'm just saying don't. As we get closer, me and Hughesy, podcast host, fellow rugby commentator, we'll be doing our full-on predictions. Do not be surprised when I put Georgia in second place and going through the pool stages. Then we talk about quarterfinals. In their quarterfinal, they play the winner of Pool D, which will more than likely be England, but could be Japan or Argentina, which, in my opinion, is a winnable game for Georgia. Any of those games, there's not out of the realm of possibility, So, again, I'm not saying they're going to win a Rugby World Cup, but could we see a Georgia go through to the quarters or even the semis? I definitely think there enough ability and there's enough things happening that are going in the right direction for them to see that happening. The second team I've got as kind of the biggest dark horses, and it's a bit of a cop-out, this one, but it's Scotland. And the reason it is Scotland is because they're in a pool with Ireland and South Africa. And so what everyone's doing is going, Ireland, South Africa are making it through the pools. Scotland, we're not even expecting them to make it through the pools. And I just think that puts them under the radar, and it goes, what happens if Scotland do, A, get through the pools, and then B, if they get through the pools and beat one of South Africa or Ireland, you can't tell me that they can't beat a New Zealand or a France. And again, I know New Zealand obviously never happened and stuff like that, but if you can do it against South Africa and Ireland, who are the two of the top four teams, you can't tell me that they can't do it against those other two, which means, again, and then if they do that, they go across and play maybe in England or in Australia in a semi-final. So for me, if the fifth ranked world team to say that they're out at the pool stages just blows my mind. Now, they've got a tough challenge to do, and I'll explain why. In 2023, they beat Italy, lost to Ireland, lost to France, beat Wales, beat Scotland. So a decent Six Nations, tournament they had. Disappointing to lose to those top two teams. In 2022, they beat Argentina twice, lost to New Zealand, beat Fiji, lost to Australia lost to Argentina twice, lost to Ireland, beat Italy, lost to France, lost to Wales, shouldn't have, beat England. In 2021, they beat Japan, lost to South Africa, beat Australia, beat Tonga, beat Italy, lost to Ireland, lost to Wales, shouldn't have again, beat England. And the big one, they beat France. So what I'm saying, let's take those two losses out to Wales. They do have an issue where they haven't bet the big teams, the South Africa, the Irelands, the New Zealands. They haven't done that, but they have, if you get what I mean. So in 2021, beating France is a big thing to go back 2 years, only 2 years in a World Cup cycle, and have beat a team who is one of the favourites in this competition. So to me, to sit there and discount them has made them a dark horse. We don't expect them to go through and win it all, whereas they very well can. This team, Scotland as well, is very similar, I guess, with the way and the push forward I put on Georgia, where they've got 29 of their 41 World Cup training squad players playing for either Edinburgh or Glasgow. That's a big group playing for two teams, based in a good competition that is the URC, which I would say is the top competition in the world. I know, obviously, La Rochelle won the European Championship, and you can make that argument for France, and I'm not going to sit here and say I'm against that argument, but that's not the point of the video today. So Scotland have 29 out of 41. The other ones that aren't in that are your talented players like Finn Russell playing for Racing 92, who is in career best form, and if he can take that in, will be an incredible player to watch. Stuart Hogg, obviously, his last game or last round with the Scottish national team. So there'll be a lot of reasons to. Gregor Townsend has had enough time at the helm now as well to really put this team in a good position. And I'm just thinking, everyone's going, yeah, South Africa, Ireland. I've done it myself. South Africa, Ireland, France, New Zealand, quarterfinals. Well, how hard's this draw? Rah, rah, rah. What about Scotland? 5th ranked best team in the world. A lot of good players. A lot of things pointed to me. All they need is one upset at the right time. They make the quarterfinals. All of a sudden, they get 2 upsets at the right time. They're in the semi-finals, and all of a sudden they're playing England in a semi-final. It's not an upset anymore. It's not. It's all of a sudden Scotland go into a semi-final as a favourite because of the recent history over England. And you just sit there and you go, what has happened? How did we not see this coming? Well, I'm telling you right now, Scotland dark horse in this World Cup. The third and the final one of my dark horses in this Rugby World Cup is probably the biggest outsider to be a dark horse. I would say, in my head, things tick over, and this is what's ticked over. I'm so unsure of how it could actually possibly turn out, but there's enough things pointing me in the direction to say that they're a dark horse that I've put them in here anyway. So it's from Pool D, and it's not any of England, Japan, or Argentina. It is Samoa. They're joined also in the group by Chile, but I just think a lot of people counting the Samoan team out. And if we're putting Fiji up there, and I know a lot of talk about this World League in the international rugby world, has people talking about Fiji and Japan joining in. Let's not forget, Samoa won the Pacific Nations Cup in 2022. They bet Fiji, they bet Australia A. What they've also been able to do this World Cup is add players with high quality. Lima Sopoaga, Jeffrey Toomaga Allen, Charlie Faumuina, all added to the squad with the stand down, stand by law. Now that they're no longer All Blacks and haven't been All Blacks for a certain amount of time. So I just sit there and I go, was already a really good base of talent. They're the 12th ranked team in the world. They have done it on a high pedigree before, and they've got these really world-class players coming into their squad. I just sat there and went, hold on, wait a minute. We're all talking about England, Japan, and Argentina in this pool. Why not talk about Samoa? Looking at their past results, in 2022, they beat Romania, beat Georgia, had a loss to Italy, which I would say is a bad loss, but then beat Fiji, beat Tonga, and beat Aussie A. In 2021, they beat Tonga twice and lost to New Zealand Māori twice. And again, this is not with the squad that they will have going into this World Cup. I've also kind of pulled all the results from the games against those big three teams, that they're now facing in the pool. Argentina, they've played only 4 times, 1-3, lost 1. Now, I know this is a very different Argentina to the last time they played them and probably all 4 times that they've played their Argentina team. However, saying that, they've got a winning record. Japan played 16, won 11, lost 5. Very similar again. I know, again, a different Japan. Japan's come a long way since the 2015 World Cup, and not a lot of those have gone into those, has been counted in those games. And then finally, England, 8 played, 8 losses. And I just sat there and I went, they've got 2 winning records against 2 of the 3 teams in their pool. They're playing Chile, who's the wild card. I go, with the squad they've already got, the base they already have of players that won a Pacific Nations Cup, to be adding those extra players, this could be a team that does something. It wouldn't surprise me we get to the end of that pool and, we haven't got the strongest England team. They have shown that they're, in a, I would say, a rebuilding or regrowth phase with a new coach with Borthwick and Eddie Jones out. Argentina, I expect big things from them, and I would be very surprised if it's Argentina who fall off to the Samoan team. Japan always get up for a World Cup and have always build nicely for a World Cup, but why not Samoa? But as always, I'd love to hear your thoughts, who you think might be a dark horse. Is Italy a dark horse? I haven't named one in Pool A just because I don't think anyone in Pool A quite has the dark horse name to them. I can't see anyone bar France or New Zealand going through, as much as I'd love to see France knocked out in the pool stages. So yeah, but again, I'd love to hear your opinions. Comment down who you think is a dark horse. Let me know. As always, if you've liked the video, make sure you're subscribed. Give us a like. For now, I've been Luke from the Sports Booth, and we will talk to you next time. Goodbye.